What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back here with another tier ranking video. Last time we brought you the last 20 academy products to make their name in the first team, and today we are going to be ranking Premier League managers for Tottenham. How are you feeling about this one?
I'm excited about this one. Yeah, we wanted to do this for a while, so yeah.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Obviously, the first manager we're going to rank is Ozzy Ardiles. Before we start, I'm just going to give you a roundup of what kind of tiers that we're doing. So we've got the top tier is going to be quality, and we're going to go down to decent, mediocre, poor, and then dreadful.
We created another tier because we had quite some bad managers.
I think we took the top draw out and we put a dreadful in. So let's see how we go. And the first one, we're going to start off with Ozzy Ardiles. I'm going to let you kick off with this one because it's kind of a bit for my time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was still a bit of a whippersnapper at that point, but I do remember Ozzy days, and they were fantastic to watch, mate. I mean, we weren't that great, but under Ozzy, it was probably the most exciting that I've seen Spurs play. 7 up front,
and one at the back.
One at the back. He was renowned for that, but it was just a fantastic season. Actually, 94, that season we got Klinsmann, it really rekindled a lot of love and the belief in that Spurs are this entertaining, cutthroat team that just plays this expansive football. So I really loved that season, and that was the Ozzy Ardiles mould. So it's
kind of something that not you, but a lot of Spurs fans bang on about a lot, and it's about like the DNA of the football club and kind of what the football club has been doing for many years. And that Ozzy team kind of epitomised Spurs' DNA. Poor defence, amazing attack, but that was extreme.
That was an extreme version of what Spurs are in their DNA, if you can imagine that. And that's why Arsenal fans, they don't get it, because they always just refer back to trophies. But I'm like, we have a soul to our club. I know that's bloody harsh, but like there is a real soul to our club, and they wouldn't really understand it. It's the difference between either supporting Stephen Hendry, that won everything, or Jimmy White, that didn't win the World Championships. I can't help but love Jimmy White. I can't just support Stephen Hendry because he's won trophies.
It's a good analogy.
And that is how I see Spurs. It's like, I didn't choose Spurs, they chose me. Do you know what I mean? It's in my blood.
I know exactly what you mean,
Right? And there's certain
it's bestowed upon you, you know what I mean?
Like, I don't support Spurs, I am Spurs. And I had no choice in it. And that's how I feel. And there's certain seasons where you see that amplified. And that 94 season, for me, I had it. Like, even just like the Harry Redknapp season that we've played, just like gung-ho football. Like, even if we're losing 5-4, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just I'm feeling that love for Spurs, and it got really rekindled in that season under Ozzy. And that's something that Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans will never understand about us. It's just like, that is us. That is what we bring. I'm getting emotional, man.
What tier are you putting him in?
Poor. No, so something we've also got to put here, right? This is we're judging this on what they did for us. Dreadful. No, I'm going to be real here. Okay, so this when we come to do this, we're not just saying what they're like as a manager, it's also what they're like as a manager for us. Okay?
Sure.
Now, so we've got dreadful, we've got poor, we've got mediocre, decent, right? As a manager, let's be honest, Ozzy Ardiles wasn't successful at Spurs, okay? But he did bring a lot of entertainment, and he brought like the lifeblood back into it. I mean, it was poorly managed, if I'm being honest, because it was just totally all over the place. 7 up front, 2 at the back, whatever it was. But I did really like his teams. They were exciting to watch.
Are we going poor?
But I'm gonna have to, if we're being honest here, and I'm all about being honest, John. I'm still going to have to say poor, because it was not a great...
What was our highest finish under Ozzy?
I think we finished 8th in 94, 95. Yeah. But unfortunately, as a manager for Spurs, you're going to have to say poor for Ozzy. Although he did do a lot of great things. He brought Klinsmann in. He nearly brought Maradona in. Yeah. That would have been unbelievable.
Well, he decided against it because of all the baggage he came with, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a shame. And he was able to attract good players, So, but I'm going to have to say poor, which is a shame.
All right. Ozzy, you're going in poor. Sorry. This is nothing personal. Next up, Jerry Francis. This was kind of as the time that I was starting to get into Spurs. He had a great mullet, that's for sure.
Yeah. He's still got that mullet.
Yeah, I know.
How can you still have the mullet after all these years? Oh my god.
But yeah, for me, dreadful, to be honest. I think he nearly took us down. Took over from Ozzy, and I think we regressed after that, didn't we?
He's just like a kind of an old school, like Hackney Marshes style tactician. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can just see that just the way he looks. I'm sorry, but that's just it is like these cheap tracksuits. He just got that look about him.
He just looks like a £1 manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he just doesn't look a classy manager. I mean, we did start to look good in the 95-96 season, and we had good away form that season.
Was that his first season?
That was his. Well, no, he took over
halfway through the season before.
a little bit before the season ended. And we did look as though we were sort of getting a little bit more robust. We lost Clinton, we got Armstrong. We were actually up there in about fifth up until about Christmas, I think it was. So we weren't looking too bad. But if you take everything, the whole Jerry Francis era, that last few months under Jerry Francis is actually the worst football I've ever seen. And that includes Christian Gross. So for me,
Christian Gross actually came in and saved us, which we'll get onto. We're
going to get onto that, but I would totally agree. I think Jerry Francis is dreadful.
And it also says a lot about his football knowledge when he goes for Chris Armstrong apparently, and when Dennis Bergkamp wanted to come to Spurs.
Do you know what? I don't want to say, but that was a real sliding doors moment, I think, and I think we missed we know we missed the trick there.
Yeah.
And thinking we got Armstrong, and we didn't want to pay the extra 1.5.
You've seen what Armstrong's up to now? He's like a ruster.
Is he? Yeah,
he's got dreadlocks down to the floor. He's been done on like marijuana charges and stuff like that.
Talk about going off the rails, that boy.
But yeah, so I'm putting him in dreadful.
Yeah, dreadful.
All right, next up, Christian Gross. Dreadful. Obviously took over from Francis. I think, first of all, we've got to talk about that train ticket as he came in.
Trying to endear himself to the fans.
Yeah.
I bought this. I'm a fan like you. I've come. Yeah, and you're going to get one out of there as well. Travel card for you on the way out.
Not even travel. He gets a single. Just go.
I'll pay for his taxi.
I think when he first came in, I think he saved us from relegation that year when Francis got sacked. But then after that, it just went back to being dreadful. With terrible players, terrible team, and a terrible manager to go along with it. Yeah. Albeit, though, I think he very much improved as a manager when he left Spurs, and he went on to do good things with Basel.
That's Basel, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but he did well in the Champions League and in Europe.
Well, he did well before he came to Spurs at Basel.
Did he?
Yeah, I think we got him. Grasshoppers. He was doing well at Grasshoppers, but I just think that's just that's the Swiss league, though, isn't it?
But as well, he did well in the European game with Basel.
Oh, did he?
He had a few good results. I wouldn't say he did well.
Just not cut out for the Prem, and just to cut a distant figure. I don't know. He did. I think he did improve things slightly, especially the tail end of Jerry Francis. So for that,
but we looked odds on to go down that year under Francis. We really could have gone down if we didn't sack him when we did.
Do you know what that Jerry? I didn't say, but that Jerry Francis season, towards the end of that, I was so angry and upset. I tore all my Spurs posters down in my room. I was so ashamed of that Jerry Francis era. It was just like real dark days. But no, for me, Christian Gross is still dreadful.
All right. George,
do you agree?
I agree, yeah. Definitely. George Graham.
He did win us a trophy, so he might get some. I might give him some points.
You know what? We're not even going to call him George Graham. Let's call him Man in a Raincoat because,
Man in a Raincoat. Yeah.
He was a man in a raincoat, and that's what we used to sing at Spurs when he was a manager. Man in a Raincoat's Blue and White Army, and because we just couldn't bring ourselves to say the guy's name.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a terrible appointment from minute one. Why would you get an Arsenal legend as your manager? It just baffles me still to this day. Yeah. Then not only did he do that, but he completely treated Ginola with disrespect.
I was going to say,
complete disrespect.
You always mention that, don't you?
Like I've said in many videos, I would never forgive Graham for getting rid of Ginola the way he did.
And sidelining him. He just always kept him on the bench towards the end. I was like, play him, Yeah. He was like the best player. He was like almost power. It's like a power trip by Graham.
But what sticks in my memory really so much is being at White Hart Lane and all the protests for him and Sugar to go. I just remember that so fresh in the memory, and it'll stick with me for a long time because my uncle had a season ticket at the time and I went with him a lot, sit in the Park Lane with him, and those kind of memories just stick with you. And the only good thing Graham did for Spurs, I think, was win that cup, to be honest.
That's what he was just chalk and cheese. His turgid style of football and just with what we are as a club, just didn't mix at all. It's funny how we seem to sort of win the League Cups with managers that were crap.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Yeah, it's weird.
There's a weird paradox to that, isn't there?
Yeah, you got Graham, and then after that was Ramos. Yeah, it's a very strange one.
Maybe we need to get another.
Probably. Maybe Jose's the one.
Maybe he's the one. Yeah, maybe he's the one. I don't know. But what do you think? I'm not going to say dreadful because I will give him points for winning the League Cup.
Yeah, I'm going to put him in poor.
Poor, yeah.
I really want to put him in dreadful because I hate the man. And I really, like I said, I'm not going to forgive him for some of the things he's done. Arsenal legend coming to Spurs. I'm going to
say I'll be honest. It's not dreadful. It's poor.
He won us a trophy. Let's be honest. All right, we'll put George Graham in poor. Glenn Hoddle. This is going to be an interesting one. I wouldn't say dreadful.
No, it's not. It's not dreadful. I was just thinking it could even be mediocre. This one. It could be mediocre.
It was something that we were calling out for because Daniel Levy and Enoch come into the club, and the first thing that they do is sack George Graham, an Arsenal legend, and bring in a Tottenham legend in Glenn Hoddle. That was great,
but do you know what? Here's another thing. In a weird sort of parallel universe, I think if we kept Graham on for that semi-final in 2001, I just got this weird feeling like we might have just done it.
Yeah, it was the right appointment at the wrong time.
I just wanted to see what would have happened if he was the manager. I don't know why that is. I know it goes against the grain of the Spurs.
No, I think you're 100% right because Graham could have been the only one to have beaten that Arsenal side.
Yeah, exactly.
With his style of play.
Pull it off, yeah. So that kind
Although it did start well, that semi-final, but then it went to shit again.
Doc.
Yeah. Glenn Hoddle, I thought he brought some good ideas to Tottenham. I thought he was a good manager. I thought he did well with England.
Yeah. Do you think he did well for England?
I think he did do well.
I don't think he did.
Why not?
No,
I think that 98 World Cup, he did well.
He had the best crop of players that we'll ever see for England, and I just think he wasn't able to gel them all together. You know, he had like literally the best starting 11. I think that 98 World Cup team was the best we're ever going to see playing for England, starting for England.
We should have beaten Argentina that game anyway.
It was just so negative on the ball. Like no one was willing to like take on a man or like be incisive at all. And it was just like apart from Owen, Michael Owen, and which he was sidelining. And he didn't want to play Owen, did he? It was like it's only because it was like he came on as sub and scored the goal. He kind of earned his place. But for England, I don't think Hoddle was that great. If I'm being honest, I think he was okay.
I actually thought he was a good manager.
You thought he was right? I don't know.
But in terms of Spurs, I'm going to put him mediocre.
Yeah, I can agree. When he was up in the first half of the games, he used to sit up and I was like, what a genius, what a kind of wise old man, sitting watching the first half of the games like quite high up. I was like, this guy knows he's going to do well at Spurs.
Yeah.
I think he was undermined by David Pleat. I think David Pleat undermined him. I think he had a lot of ageing players who we were struggling to rein in the egos, let's say, in the dressing room. I think that was a bit of an issue.
He spent quite a bit of money, Hoddle. Remember, he bought in Dean Richards for like 9 million.
That was actually quite a lot of money back then, 9 or 10 million.
Yeah, there's a lot of money, and I think he spent a lot of money in general. But all in all, I think mediocre. You can't put him any higher than that, to be honest.
No, I don't. No, you can't. You can't. It has to be mediocre, yeah. There's an argument to say poor, but I'm going to say mediocre. Just
because he's a legend.
Yeah.
Next up, Jack Santini. See, I was actually really excited when we appointed him.
I was excited. Okay, here's the thing that people might not remember, but when Santini came in, there was a little upturn in our robustness, if you know what I mean. We did start looking a little bit more solid as a unit, defending.
He wasn't there for that long, though, was he?
Wasn't he just spending every night in a hotel room? He didn't
something like that.
Yeah, he hadn't actually unpacked his
something like that. But how many games did he last?
I don't know, like not even till Christmas, was it?
Yeah, it was very short. But I thought the plan overall for that was always for Yol to take over. I think they wanted a big name, and that didn't work out, obviously. So I thought the plan was always for Yol to take over, to be honest.
I didn't know that. I think Yol got lucky getting that, because he was there at the time. I'm not sure about that, or that could be right. I don't know. I can't remember the history of that. But I remember even on Match of the Day they were talking about how Spurs are not an easy team to beat now when we're under Santini. Yeah. That's what they were saying at that time. We look back on it and we think dreadful, but I don't think in those short amount of months that it was terrible under Santini. I
mean, the way he left, it was just out of the blue, really, wasn't it? I'm going to put him in poor because...
Yeah. It wasn't dreadful.
The only reason I'm putting him in poor is because it was so short of a time. You can't really judge it that well.
No, you can't. It's difficult to remember as well. But I do remember them. I do remember them saying Spurs are a lot harder to beat now under the Santini reign. But you can only really put poor because nothing really manifested from it.
All right, so let's put him. What did we say? Poor.
Poor.
Let's put Santini in poor, and now let's get on to some good managers. And let's start off with Martin Yol, BMJ, Big Martin Yol, Big Martin Yol. He was the first manager at Tottenham I fell in love with.
He was the start of the revolution at Spurs, if you want to call it a revolution. Yeah. But
the no trophy revolution.
When you trace it all back, it was Martin Jol that put the.
He laid the foundations.
He laid the foundations. He really did, and we loved him. I would say for me, he's as lovable as Poch. I don't know why, but he was just like that uncle figure, you know. And when he squared up
the
to
Godfather,
Wenger,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and
I just remember he had such a connection with the fans.
Why is that? Do you think?
I think he was just a lovable man. He was Tottenham through and through as well, because I don't even know, he was a big Spurs fan before he came to Spurs.
Was he? Okay.
He spoke very fondly of Spurs all the time, and he had that connection with the fans just because, first of all, when he came in, everything started going on that upward trajectory. Had that fight with Arsene Wenger.
I love that.
His interviews were always spot on. I loved his interviews.
Did you like his interviews?
Yeah, I loved them.
What frustrated me about Jol, though, was then we'd be like a couple of goals up, and then we'd like sit, you know, the old sit back Spurs, sit back, and like 11 men on the penalty area, hacking balls away, last ditch, and that really annoyed me when he couldn't just say, we were unable to like keep our shape and like still play on the front foot. Instead, he would always say, oh, we didn't get that third goal to kill the game off, and I'm like, can you not just please for once just say that like our arseholes fell out? Do you know what I mean? And we need to work on that. We need to work on our psychology and like, you know, just defend DNA. From. Well, it's not. Yeah, exactly. Well, until we come on to Poch when he starts to change things. But, it's not in our DNA. But I would have liked a little bit more higher IQ type analysis on the game from Jol. I thought that was a little bit limited in that respect. And there were so many times where we should have beaten Chelsea in the FA Cup that season, and we were 3-1 up away from home, and Defoe hits the bar, and then we just sit back and just like bring them onto us.
Hossam Ghali scored that day, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he made Berbatov the player he was. Well, I don't know if he made him the player he was, but he definitely brought him to the club, didn't he?
He also brought Raziak to the club. Touché.
But
they liked playing for him. The team loved playing for him, and I actually think Berbatov might have stayed an extra season if we still had Jol. I think when he left, there was a bit of love lost with Ramos, and I just think they loved playing for him. That 2005 team was brilliant when we got all the West Ham players. We looked really good that season.
And we should have got top four that year. It was the last day when the Gooners poisoned us on the last day of the season with the lasagna.
Yeah.
That year. That year put us back.
I know, five or 6 years. It did. I think that as well. And then because it meant we lost Carrick, and losing Carrick was like he was the nucleus of that crop of players. I think. And when we lost Carrick, I think that took us about 2 or 3 seasons to recover from that. And I think if we'd have got Champions League, he definitely would have stayed. Carrick, personally. So. We sound like bitter old men, don't we?
I'm going to put Martin Jol.
I think decent for me. Decent.
Yeah, I think he flirts in between decent and quality, but I can see where you come from. Decent. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean,
the fact that he started the revolution, that is quality. That's absolutely quality. But if we're going to compare him to the later managers that come after him, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
you could put a case forward for quality, just for what he built as the start of the revolution.
Yeah, but I think if he would have got over the line and finished top 4 that year, I think maybe you've got more of a case.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I think he's a very high decent.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Cool. Moving on to Juan de Ramos. The guy who took ketchup away from Tom Huddleston.
He did what?
He took ketchup away from Tom Huddleston.
Weren't they hiding their sweets from him?
Something like that, yeah.
Janice was saying hiding their sweets. They had to like under the table like dealing drugs. For me, I'm actually not gonna. We did look dreadful at the tail end of Ramos, didn't we?
Yeah.
We looked shocking.
I think we looked dreadful at the tail end of everyone, though. To be honest.
Yeah, so it's difficult. Maybe we have to take out the tail end of these managers and just judge them on. I'm going to say poor just because he won us the trophy. And I think, do you know what? In cup games, he really knew how to set us up in cup games to counter the opposition, to kind of like out-chess the opponents. Arsenal in that semi-final. Yeah. He set us up perfectly on the counter. Yeah. And some of those goals, like the Keane goal that made it 3-0 was an example of that goal, if you watch that goal back. And I just think he knew how to win those one-off games. I thought he actually had that. That was one thing you could say about Ramos. He knew how to set us up for one-off games. And in the final, we played better than Chelsea, and Chelsea were best team in Europe probably. Yeah. So he won us that trophy. Pretty dismal overall, but I'm going to say poor for the same reason we gave Graham poor. I'm going to say poor, even though it was pretty
awful football, uninspiring football, but wins us a trophy.
I'm going to, for that reason, winning us a trophy, it can't be dreadful. That's the only reason I'd say poor.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think we've agreed on every one so far. Yeah. Moving on to Harry Redknapp.
Yeah. Took us on to... See, I think we've improved. Yol obviously improved us. Then I think...
these are the stepping stones. It goes from Yol to Redknapp to Poch.
I think they all were stepping stones, positive stepping stones, all the way to Poch. And I think they all slightly improved, each one, you know. Which one are we on?
Redknapp.
And I think he improved us.
Big time. Got us top 4. Could have won the league that year if it wasn't for his England antics, I think.
This is quality for me because... This is quality because he definitely improved us, but I still think Harry Redknapp had a ceiling. I think he took us as far as he could take us, to be honest with you.
I don't know about that because I think that year where he was going for the England job, we were so good. I'm telling you, we could have won the league, and we completely went off the rails because of his antics and because he was going for the England job quite openly, and Daniel Levy offered him that contract when he was going for the England job, and he said, no, I don't want the contract, I'm going to England, whatever. Then England was it Roy Hodgson or was it Sam Allardyce, one of them. England go for them, and then
you think that
Redknapp goes back to Levy. He's like, oh, I'll sign that contract now, and then Levy goes, all right, you can have half the wages.
Yeah,
and then he gets sacked.
I think that definitely played a part that season. I think there's a lot of things that happened that season that weren't to our favour. I think even that guy having a heart attack on the pitch. We had loads. I remember at the time there was loads of things that were like affecting us that season, and it was just like one after the other, like little things. But for me, Harry Redknapp is still limited tactically. For instance, you know when we were 2-0 up against Arsenal away from home and Sahar scored, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what happened then was that what he did at half time is he took Lennon off and he put Sandro and he brought Defoe on, right? And he took off Lennon. The one thing Lennon was doing was actually pinning Sanya. He was pinning Sanya back. When he took Lennon off, Sanya was able to push forward into our half. And that actually meant they were all over us. That was part of it anyway.
We ended up losing 5-2, right?
And we ended up losing 5-2. And I think that was a massive mistake. But also, one of the things that Redknapp, his one tactical genius move was always, I'm going to thicken it up in midfield. I'm going to stick an extra man. I'm going to thicken it up in midfield. It was almost like that's
pie mesh.
That was like his one go-to tactical move in like games. It's like, think the game's a little bit more complex than that. And I think he was limited, and he used to bring on Jake Livermore trying to shore up the midfield, thicken up the midfield. That had the effect of dropping us deeper and putting us into on the back foot quite often. And I think he didn't realise the importance of having a baller in there to bypass the press, the first line. So I think he was limited tactically, but in terms of like getting players to really...
he was a great man manager and motivator.
Yeah, Van der Vaart is a perfect example of that. He goes, didn't have any tactics. We didn't have any tactics. I can't do the voice. We didn't have any tactics. He just said, wow, Rafa, what a player. You know what I mean?
And just go out and play your stuff.
Exactly. So I think that, as a man management point of view, was brilliant. And he got everyone to really play for him and the badge. But I think he was limited tactically.
But the thing is, at the time, when Redknapp come in, we had a lot of young English players, and I think that's what they needed at the time, because Ramos was like overcomplicated things. He couldn't speak English, so he didn't really fit in with the squad. And Redknapp came in, he just simplified everything and
put the arm around the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we needed at the time. So for me, he goes in quality because not only was it what we needed at the time, but he got us where we needed to be at the time as well. Champions League football. He brought the players in like Peter Crouch, who done wonders for us, scored some great goals and some really important goals. Like I said, got us into Champions League for the first time. That was massive for us. It really was.
Yeah. Well, I think quality then. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
Quality.
Yeah.
Next up, AVB, Andre Villas-Boas.
I mean, it's
for
funny.
me decent.
Because it's funny because he did improve us, and we got 72 points under AVB, which is actually our third highest league table. Believe it or not. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? The Poch reign.
Is that down to AVB or down to Bale?
Bale, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. So now we're coming on to it. So I don't think it was a complete disaster under AVB. I think points wise, we looked as though we were improving. I think a lot of that was down to Bale, if not all of it. We were looking quite robust. With Vertonghen coming in, we did look quite solid. But I would also say that it was turgid football. I really didn't enjoy watching us that season.
It was such a stress to go to every game, because I know you go to every game and you're just so bored throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I didn't like watching us that season. I would much prefer a kind of a Martin Jol 4-4 than I would winning 1-0.
But it was a weird one because I really liked him, but I just hated his football. I liked him as a man.
Did you? I didn't like his post-match interviews. It was too like monotone.
Yeah.
And that's how we kind of
He's such a croaky voice.
And that's almost like what we were like. We were just a bit monotone on the pitch, you know.
Mm-hmm. But I think he's actually a good manager. He's just the style he implements just very boring.
Yeah, and I actually he was trying the high press, and that wasn't, and then we were getting caught out quite a lot.
We didn't have the defence to try that high press.
We weren't all moving up as a unit. It was almost like a little bit, muddled up, within the team. I think decent would probably be about right. I'm
going for decent. Next up, Tim. Tim Sherwood.
Well, look, he did actually. We were rotting, under the end of AVB. And when he came in, he did do a couple of moves which did freshen things up, and he
got Adebayor on side.
He did, and he got Bentaleb playing, gave him a chance, and he did sort of isolate the time wasters and the mercenaries, which he said in his post-match interviews, and I did like him for that.
I don't know if you remember his post-match interview after we got absolutely battered by Chelsea.
That was it. That's the one I'm referring to.
And it's that one.
There's a guy who's on the coach now. That I tell you what, he wouldn't care if we lost. He's just forgotten about it straight away, and we need to get rid of him.
I loved that interview. I really loved it because those players deserved everything they got from Tim Sherwood.
Yeah.
There were some things about Tim Sherwood I liked. There were a lot of things I didn't like. Yeah. But in terms of the things I liked, I think he got a lot of players back on side.
Yeah.
He's the man responsible for Harry Kane, how he likes to tell everyone all the time. But I think it's kind of what we needed at the time. We needed someone just to kick everyone up the arses because everyone had lost the plot.
When we look back on Sherwood, we think, Sherwood, he's not a great manager. But he did actually do a lot of good things, and we do forget that. And he did get rid of the time wasters and the mercenaries, and I think he actually did get us playing.
He was very limited, though, as a manager, I think.
Yeah, he did, but he did get us scoring again, which was a big problem towards the tail end.
He got Adebayor scoring week in, week out,
and he had an instant effect. He was kind of like that manager you bring in, like if you're like nearly getting relegated, you send him off to Southampton. He'd maybe try and like rally the troops to sort of like just get the team performing quickly. That kind of manager. Yeah. But He's not like a long term.
Has he ever got a job since? I don't think he's got a top job since. I know he's managed in the lower leagues.
He was. I'm pretty sure he managed a Premier League side when they were like flirting near the relegation. Could be wrong on that one.
Not sure.
I think he did a good job actually. I know that's controversial, but I actually think he did
I'm going to put him in mediocre.
I mean, he's not a great manager.
Yeah.
But I think he did a decent job. You know what I mean?
So probably somewhere in between mediocre and decent.
Mediocre manager, did a decent job. So however you want to see that one.
Now we go on to Maurizio Pochettino. Mm-hmm. We know where we're going to put him. It's quality. Completely transformed the football club from top to bottom, I thought. He added that still that we've been missing for pretty much our whole 130-year history. He brought consistent Champions League football, consistently being better than Arsenal, consistently having title races as well. You could have said that we could have won the league on one or two occasions. I think that he brought us into a team where people actually feared to play week in, week out. And he brought the love back into it as
That's
well.
That's what I like. That is what I loved about him. You know what I mean? He was just like an uncle figure.
Yeah.
And he loved the club. Almost brings a tear to my eye. He took us up a notch,
More than a notch.
We were more than not. We were sort of good, and we were sort of flirting with fourth, and we were like looking up towards fourth every season.
Yeah.
When we were really motoring under Poch, we were looking towards the title, and that was the difference. So that was the leap that we took under Poch. The first season we finished fifth and got to the league final, I remember. Mm-hmm. So we had that high energy, and then we kind of burnt out towards the end of the season.
I think throughout Poch's reign, it just went...
It was definitely a bell curve.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a shame. I mean...
But... Again, he was not again, but I haven't said it previously, but a lot of these managers were let down by the owners of the football club.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, if you don't take into account like the last, I think things started to go downhill after the Man United away game when we lost 1-0. Or was it home when we lost 1-0?
I think it was. It started to go downhill when Moussa Dembele left. That's when it really started to go downhill.
Well, we won 6-2 at Everton and we were absolutely flying, and then we played Man United and we lost, and I was like, what's happened?
Yeah.
It was around that time we lost Dembele. Yeah. But if you don't judge him on that last year, let's say, which you could maybe put down to the board and Levy as well, it's really probably another level top draw.
Yeah.
We don't have that, but it's definitely beyond the Redknapps.
Do you think Poch will go on and win it all?
It depends how well he's backed.
Yeah.
If he has the money, I think he probably will. Plus, he's going to improve as a manager tactically. I think one of his mistakes. He had his limits.
He was naive as well at times.
I think tactically he was a little bit short-sighted. I remember he played Son at left wing back against Chelsea. Yeah. He panicked before big games and he used to just change tactics last minute, like formations we'd never seen before. So I think from that point of view, it was a little bit off. I think he freezed players out a little bit too long to kind of establish a power base, like Dyer, Rose, Toby Alderweireld.
He was stubborn, wasn't he?
He was a little bit stubborn. I also think that he was a great coach, and he got everyone really working towards a philosophy energetically. I think we did burn out towards the end of seasons, apart from the season that we got 86 points. I think we always burnt out towards the end of the season. We
won our last 10 games or something like that. That
was the only season that we've gone the whole way through, like fifth gear the whole way through without burning out. The other seasons we always burnt out.
Yeah.
I think he did try and change the DNA, so he kind of understood that there was a psychology with us, that we had a soft underbelly and that we were kind of a little bit frail psychologically.
But it was always evident though, wasn't it? Really.
That is us on our DNA, and he understood that, and he tried to change the psychology of all the players, trying to believe that we're winners.
What I'm saying is, even when we had the best defence in the league, we still kind of lacked that steel in the big games.
That's it, exactly. So we had the best defensive line in the Premiership. We had Lloris, we had Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose, and Walker. So on paper, we should be great defensively, but in those big games, especially away from home,
those crunch games when it really matters.
Crunch games, when we got that goal up, we just sat back. And you don't just defend on that back five, let's call it that. You defend as a unit, as a team.
Yeah.
The attackers are defenders when you're defending, right? And I think that he wasn't able to understand how to defend as a unit off the ball. It all kind of went a little bit, even when we won 1-0 at Man City when we were going for the title against Leicester City, I remember watching that and we just collapsed. It was just, and Lloris is doing that fingertip save or whatever it was, or he had it, I think Aguero or someone just had it over the bar the last second. It's like, we're so leaky. How are we so leaky?
But there's a few games that from the top of my head that I can remember, the games that we should have won where we did, the Chelsea game, the Battle of the Bridge, Arsenal a number of times. I don't think Poch won at the Emirates apart from the League Cup.
And we had many leads at the Emirates. I think there was two games where we had a goal lead and then we just let it go. And what really upset
the West Ham games as well.
That the Leicester, when we were going against Leicester that season, when we were 1-0 up and they were down to 10 men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, you've got to win that game. Yeah. You have to win that game. There's no way against
Harry Kane scores that absolute worldie to put us top of the league.
Yeah.
And then we just falter after that.
Yeah. So
but, what about the good things like
plenty of good things.
Plenty of good
Loads
things.
Of good things.
You got us to a bloody Champions League final. Nobody could even dream of something like that.
And he did it he was trying to create a philosophy of bringing young players through. He got the average age of the team down to 24 years old, youngest in the league, and still being able to compete at the highest level.
How many England debuts did he produce for some of our players?
And he totally he turned these players into great players, all of them, into athletes.
He overachieved at Tottenham. He really did.
Do you think he should have been given more of a chance or not?
Yeah, I do. I think he deserved for Levy to back him 100%. Whatever he wanted, Levy should have given him because he deserved it over the number of years of work. I can see why we made a change and why he got sacked, but it should never have got to that, and that's down to Levy.
It's down to Levy. I mean, it needed that refresh because Ferguson always knew that you have to keep refreshing the team because these players might start getting resentful towards the philosophy of
and that's
not
what
winning.
happened.
And that's exactly what happened. And also, I do think Pochettino should have changed his coaching staff because that's another thing that Fergie used to do. Change the coaching staff he was too loyal even to his coaching staff, and I think you change the coaching staff, you change the training ground, you freshen things up there, people feel more on their toes, more alive, and I think that was another mistake that Poch did. I guess his loyalty was that was the thing that cost him.
You think that's his downfall?
I think partly it was an ingredient to it, but Levy has to take responsibility in that he didn't back him well enough, and that season with no signings disgrace. I'm sorry. I know we're in the new stadium, but
you know,
you can afford it.
You say the same back for Harry Redknapp as well. When we were going for the title that
Zaha.
1 year, we wanted Tevez and Gary Cahill, and we get Zaha and Nelson. So it's the same thing after every manager.
Well, that's another argument for why Levy's not the right man, but
quality, surely.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, it's
quality.
Top draw, but on our list, it's high quality.
Yeah,
it's high quality.
We
miss you. We miss you, Koch.
And last but not least, it's Jose Mourinho. Obviously, hasn't had that many games at Spurs, but I think when he came in, we had a nice little manager bounce, and then everyone started getting injured, and it all went to shit. And then we looked like awful, literally awful. The last 3 or 4 games. Can you give him a ranking?
Yeah, maybe we can't give him a ranking. I think maybe that might be the politically correct thing to do, because I know how much heat I got when I was criticising Mourinho. But look, he's obviously a quality manager.
Yeah,
we know that. But if we're just judging it on the performances, for me it's poor, and especially we're almost in freefall like the last few games we had.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so good that we've got this break, because I think what might happen is when we go back and start playing, we might start picking things up again.
I agree.
But it's very difficult to say right now. I think only time will tell.
Yeah, I think it's a bit unfair to put him in any tier.
Yeah.
Right now, let's put him in mediocre for argument's sake. Middle of the road.
Okay, maybe that's the politically correct position to put him in. But only time will tell, right?
Yeah, and that will be
in 12 months.
Exactly, that will be reviewed in 12 months.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That is the tier ranking for the Premier League managers of Tottenham, all Premier League managers. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of our tier list. If you think we've placed anyone wrong, or let me know where you would place all these managers. Thanks a lot, John, for joining me yet again. And as always, come on, you Spurs.